the developers of Victoria 3 promised to change the combat system. The developers of Grand Strategy Victoria 3 posted a plan for the development of the game in the diary. From there we will find out what the creators want to do with the game in the shortest possible time, what will change, and most importantly, whether the gameplay systems, such as combat or economy, will fix. As it turned out, they will actually work on such changes. Prior to this diary, the creators were working on fixing bugs and fixing the balance, and at least 5 small patches with changes were released since the official release of the strategy. Their plans are certainly not limited to hotfixes, so let's find out what to expect from the new Grand Strategy in the near future. Important: everything said here will be added in free patches, and is available to absolutely all players without additional expenses for add-ons. At least that's what the developers wrote, but things may change, and the studio will ask fans to purchase a couple of DLCs with changed mechanics and balance. Let's start with the most discussed topic in the Victoria 3 community: war and its gameplay features. The creators realized that they made a mistake when they decided to release the mechanics of war in such a raw form, and decided to deal with this particular mechanic in the first place. And here's what you plan to change in military mechanics. The Generals creators are going to improve the system of selecting units and increase artificial intelligence to the commander, balancing the overall progress on the fronts. You will also be able to set strategic goals, such as capturing a specific region, port, factory, and so on. This latest change is really cool, and the action game will start to look like a system just like in Hearts of Iron 4. You will be able to independently show the general where to move the army, what exactly needs to be captured, and where to quickly gather in defense. Admirals developers will try to rework the general interface for managing naval forces. At the moment, admirals can only be selected by entering each required headquarters, while generals can be assigned with one button. Also, the developers are going to add more military data, so you can understand what affects what, why you lost a certain battle or suddenly won with a small number of people in mountain battles. Maybe we'll finally figure out if the game has a mechanic for how terrain affects combat. You will also get the ability to control the separation of fronts. For example, starting the war for a conditional Switzerland, the front is very small, but after successfully capturing a dozen strategic regions, the front expands, and here we now have no choice and no control over the troops. Random decides where to attack and when to attack. From the moment of the update, we will be able to see the fronts better, we will be given more information about the features of each front, and we will be given more freedom. Further, the developers talked about historical immersion, roughly speaking, whether artificial intelligence will follow real historical events. Such a function is available in Hearts of Iron 4, when the eye selects tricks referring to history. They also touched upon the topic of diplomacy and other things. Developers will set up bots, at least for large countries. It seems that from the moment of the new update, the great powers will act more historically, peaceful countries will follow neutrality and economic development, and Britain will fight France with all its might, and not be friends with it. Developers will make the civil war in the United States more plausible, complex, and more frequent. There were a lot of comments about this on the forums. The war in the USA can be easily avoided, and if it's still started, it's not so difficult to win for any of the parties, you just need to understand the mechanics a little. The creators are going to improve interaction with their subjects. Although the interaction is already enough, compared to other games of Paradoxes, the developers want to make them even wider and more practical. Which is really cool. The creators want to simplify the work with the population, improve the autonomous construction of the private sector and increase the differences between different economic systems. They want to customize the economy of AI in the late game, and the creators also want to teach bots how to develop or mine strategic rare resources. The developers also want to make the game more complex and realistic for agricultural countries, so that the path does not go only through industrialization. The first improvements will affect the military mechanics. The developers have no intentions to return to more tactical systems in Victoria 3, but it is necessary to improve the existing one and give more control. In certain areas, players will have more control, and the interface will be redesigned to be more beginner friendly. Then there are the other improvements described above.